What's going on, guys? My name is Lior and welcome back to my channel. Now in this video, I'm gonna be giving you guys an overview of one of my recent projects, and this one is a little bit different than most of the ones I do. So if you guys have been following my channel, you know that I've really heavily focused on apartment buildings and doing value add apartment projects. But on this one, I actually ended up doing a condo development. Now, again, this is not my bread and butter. Most of my, the majority of my projects and focus tends to be in apartment buildings, but I ended up finding this deal. I really like the area. The numbers were really good. So I thought I would do it. So I'm gonna give you guys an overview of the project, how I found it, how I financed it, and some of the construction issues and challenges that we had to overcome. So with that, let's get at it. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to this video. So as I said, I'm gonna be giving you guys a full breakdown of this kind of unique project of mine. As I said, I don't do a lot of condo developments, but I just really like this property and I really like the location. So I thought I ended up jumping into this one. So I'll give you guys an overview of the financials, how I found the deal, and of course the construction issues. So let's get into it with how I found it, right? So like a lot of my projects that I find, especially the ones that need a lot of renovation work, I found this through a contact of mine off market. It was actually through another investor right now, and this is a great lesson, right? So a lot of deals that I find, of course, come through brokers, but sometimes I get deals from other investors. So it's really important to have quality relationships with other investors in your marketplace to help with your deal flow. And this particular investor found the deal. He wanted to do the deal, but he was starting a few other projects, so he just didn't really have the bandwidth for it. So he hit me up. He knew we could close pretty quick, without any funny games, and we did. So that's how we ended up finding the deal. So in terms of the actual financing of the deal, I structured this very similar to some of my other apartment projects, right? So we brought in local community commercial debt from a local bank that was very close by to here. So they did 75% of the acquisition and they lent 100% of the construction proceeds. Now, for that down payment, that 25% down, plus a lot of my soft and holding costs, I ended up bringing a capital partner into this deal, paying them, instead of equity, a fixed rate of return, right? So they gave me $250,000, and in return, they got a fixed rate of 12% per year return on their capital. So win for them, right? Because they're obviously making a great amount on their invested capital, and a win for me because I can go and jump into this deal. So between the private capital and the community bank's debt, that's how we were able to structure the deal together. Now, as I walk into the second unit, which is the penthouse here, in terms of how we manage the construction here, is also a little bit different than how we've done a lot of our other apartment projects, right? Because on our apartment projects, the way I typically run my model is I have general contractors running the sites, right? So the GC is responsible for working with all the subs, and that way everything kind of flows to the GC. Now on this kind of project, because it's a condo project, the quality needs to be a little different, right? There's a lot more nuanced detail to developing a condo project than doing value add apartments, right? Because, with apartments, you kind of just have your bread and butter, right? You swap out your kitchen cabinets, you swap out your bathrooms, and it's very much rinse and repeat. Of course we do provide great product, but it's very different than condo quality, right? Because condo quality, there's a lot more nuance to the layout detail. There's a lot more nuance to the finish selection. So because of that extra kind of nuance, we decided to actually GC the projects ourselves and not have a general contractor running the show, right? So we basically subbed everything out. We brought in our own framers, plumbers, electricians, excavators, drywall guys, everything, right? So in terms of the construction process, we fully gutted this building to studs. It was literally just like a wooden shell when we first demoed it. And some of the other things that we had to do to this project, which are really unique, is in the lower level, the basement, we actually converted that to livable square footage. But because I'm very particular about my condo projects when I do them, right, we actually decided to dig down, right? So what that means is we literally dug into the basement to increase the ceiling height, right? Because one thing that always drives me bonkers on like condos or even single families that have finished basement square footage is when the ceiling height is really low, right? I mean, no one likes that. Like it makes the square footage feel really cramped, and it's not a good look. So we were really particular about getting a really nice high ceilings down there so that it felt large, nice, and open, just as if it were upstairs. Now, in terms of some of the other construction considerations that we don't typically do in apartments, as you can see, this is very much open concept, right? You know, we don't typically do this in apartment projects because it's not like we get premiums on rents. But of course, when you're doing condos, you know, this is what the buyers want, right? I mean, they want this nice open space, open kitchen, nice large island. So you really have to understand what your end consumer is looking for. Some of the other things too is your finish package. Very, very different than, you know, from condos to apartments. So in this case, because it's apartments, you can see first of all, our stone is a lot nicer. We went with much higher grade cabinets. We went dual tone cabinets, blue on the bottoms, white on the uppers. Backsplashes, we've spent quite a bit of money on the backsplash with the tile. The appliance package is a lot more higher end. A lot of the hardware and fixtures are much more higher end. And even our bathroom tile, which you'll probably see, you know, we again spent a lot more money on designing that and making sure everything is popping, right? Just to really, really cater towards that end buyer who's gonna be the consumer at the end of the day for this project. Now, let's talk a little bit about the financials aspects. I'm sure you're wondering about the financials of this kind of project. So I'll give you guys the high level numbers. So we bought this project for just shy of $800,000. Now, the construction cost, initially I thought we could do it for about $350 to $375. It actually penciled out, now that we finished it, we spent closer to $4-ish, $4.25. Again, some of the main reason for the cost overrun is the basement work ended up being a little bit more expensive than we had hoped for. You know, the framing, we had to completely reframe the place. We ran into some higher lumber costs, you know, some higher labor costs. So between all of that and some of the additional tile work and everything that we had to do, we ended up, like I said, spending somewhere around $4.25. Still a pretty solid budget. I mean, it's really, you know, about 10% more than our original anticipated budget, which is usually the margin of error I give myself on these kinds of projects. So, you know, we were pretty much within the ballpark. We had anticipated a little bit higher, but, you know, especially when you're doing condos, there's a lot more, like I said, there's more details. So you're gonna be a lot more particular to get those details right. So, you know, like I said, we spent about $4.25 on hard construction costs. Our soft costs between things like architectural plans, our holding costs to the bank, to the private lenders, we probably spent about $125,000 or so-ish. You know, so all in our financials, we were probably all in around 1.3-ish, 1.3 million or so. And now our units are for sale, right? I think our projected sellout on the lower end is probably gonna be somewhere around 155. So you can see it's pretty solid margins, right? I mean, it's good margins, it's good money. But more importantly, honestly, like I said, I mean, when I find the right project that I'm really passionate about, you know, I like to do these, right? These are fun. It's a little bit different than your average apartment project where you're just doing the same kitchens and cabinets. This has a lot more kind of a design element to it. There's a little bit of creativity. So again, not that this is gonna become a staple of mine, but I think it's just fun to do, and especially when it's the right project. So hopefully that made sense. Hopefully you kind of got a feel of this kind of unique project, some of the different challenges and things that you might entail doing a condo project versus an apartment project. Hopefully you guys found it helpful. Of course, like anything, if you guys have any questions or comments, or you're not sure whether you should do this or versus apartment or whatever it might be, right? Put your comments in the comments below and I will definitely help you out.